The Galactic Standards Bureau took great pride in three things: its detailed classification system, its flawless record in species categorization, and, of course, its exceptional cafeteria. Today, however, they'd be losing two of those points of pride. Fortunately, the cafeteria would remain as excellent as ever. Chief Inspector Gregory Hatcher sat at their desk, tentacles carefully holding their morning cup of high-grade mineral solution, performing their daily ritual of reorganizing files that were already neatly organized. The GSB headquarters hummed with its usual efficiency. Stamps were clicking, data pads were beeping, and the occasional swoosh of interdepartmental pneumatic tubes could be heard. "Chief Inspector! Chief Inspector!" The sharp voice of Assistant Junior Sub-Deputy Lily Thompson echoed through the otherwise serene Species Classification Division. Several of Gregory's K2's plates instinctively tightened. Lily's enthusiasm was palpable, perhaps too much so. It was the kind of enthusiasm that could either get someone promoted or fired, with no real way of predicting which. "Yes, Assistant Junior Sub-Deputy Lily Thompson?" Gregory's voice modulator emitted the exact tone required for addressing junior staff members who were being disruptive, according to GSB Employee Handbook Section 47B. Lily skittered into the office, 6 legs moving in an almost chaotic rhythm, clutching a data pad with their primary appendages. "I was reviewing historical classification records, as per Regulation 7, 249X, subsection Gamma, and I found something. Well, you should probably take a look yourself." Gregory accepted the data pad with their third tentacle, the one specifically designated for handling such items in accordance with GSB protocol. The screen displayed a classification file from approximately 200 standard cycles ago. At first glance, everything seemed normal: species designation, planet of origin, threat assessment. Gregory's optical sensors, however, suddenly dilated to maximum capacity. Species, human, Homo sapiens, planet Earth, Sol 3, classification, harmless herbivore, threat level, negligible. Notes: primarily consumes plant matter, shows some tool use, recommends minimal monitoring. "This can't be right," Gregory's voice modulator crackled, a hint of distress evident. "Lily, when was the last time this file was updated?" "That's just it, sir," Lily responded with an eager twinkle in their voice. "It hasn't been updated since the initial classification. Someone filed it under resolved, and it's just been sitting there. But I've been monitoring their planetary networks and, well, Lily's antennae twisted in a way that GSB's handbook would definitely disapprove of. They're not exactly herbivores." Gregory quickly accessed the latest Earth observation feeds. The first image showed a human using something called a fork to eat something called a steak. The second image displayed humans launching themselves into space using controlled explosions. The third image featured humans attempting to teach artificial intelligence how to generate images of cats in business suits. "By the great bureaucrat," Gregory's voice modulator switched to emergency tone 7, complete professional dismay. They leaned back in their ergonomic chair, designed in compliance with Health and Safety Directive 892Y. "Lily, do you realize what this means?" "We'll need to fill out Form 24Q for classification correction," Lily chirped enthusiastically. "Yes, well, we'll need to fill out that form, along with Form 25R for historical record amendment, and probably Form 26S for systematic review implementation." Gregory's optical sensors dimmed to their most serious setting. But more importantly, "Lily, it means that for the past 200 cycles, every species in the galaxy has been operating under the assumption that humans are harmless plant eaters, when in reality, at that exact moment, a notification popped up on Gregory's data pad. Humans had just invented something called nuclear-powered tacos, and they were incredibly excited about it. When in reality, they're humans, Gregory finished, with the kind of tone usually reserved for finding out that the cafeteria had run out of mineral solution. "Lily, schedule an emergency meeting. Bring every classification form we have. This is going to involve a lot of paperwork." Lily practically vibrated with excitement. "Even Form 62Z? "Especially Form 62Z, Gregory replied, reaching into their desk drawer and pulling out their special emergency stamp. "Lily, cancel my lunch plans. Something tells me we're about to have the most interesting day in GSB history." "Should I notify the other departments?" No. Let's not cause a panic. We just need to quietly review 2 centuries of human progress, document every violation of their original classification, and figure out how to explain to the Galactic Council that we've drastically underestimated a species that just invented something called extreme ironing. As Lily scurried off to gather the forms, Gregory took one last look at the human observation feed. One image showed someone attempting to teach a dog to play chess, while another featured a human trying to surf on a volcano. Gregory's voice modulator couldn't even find the right tone for this situation. Sometimes, Gregory thought the GSB employee handbook really needed a section on how to handle the discovery that your flawless record was about to be ruined by a species that considered "hold my beer" a reasonable introduction to any activity. Gregory had always believed that research should be conducted in a calm, methodical manner. That's what the GSB Manual for Investigative Procedures, Chapter 3, Paragraph 7, Line 42, clearly stated. However, after 4 hours of reviewing human history, Gregory was seriously considering drafting a strongly worded memo suggesting revisions to the manual. "Lily!" Gregory's voice modulator switched to tone 12 as they attempted to remain professional while processing the disturbing information. "Please confirm something for me. According to these records, humans went from inventing powered flight to landing on their moon in just 66 planetary rotations." Surrounded by a fortress of datapads and forms, Lily checked their notes. "Actually, sir, it was closer to 65 rotations. They were rushing because of something called the space race. Apparently, they had turned planetary exploration into a full-blown competition. A competition. Gregory's tentacles curled in disbelief. They had taken the slow, careful process of achieving spaceflight and transformed it into something reckless. Gregory swiftly made a note on Form 26S, Section 4. Species exhibits alarming tendency to speedrun technological advancements. It was then that senior analyst Sharath drifted into the office, their hover platform buzzing with an all-too-familiar air of superiority. "Really, Gregory? I don't get what all the fuss is about. So we misclassified one little species. It's not like they're doing anything particularly impressive." Gregory held up a datapad in response, wordlessly showing human entertainment programming. On the screen, humans were attaching rockets to ground vehicles for a strange thing they called science entertainment. Shorath waved a dismissive appendage. "That's just their media, right? Surely their actual scientific work is more refined." "They did it in real life first," Lily interrupted, practically buzzing with excitement. "The entertainment show was inspired by actual events. They call it redneck engineering." Sharath's bioluminescent spots flickered in confusion. "But why?" Lily eagerly consulted their notes. "Because, and I quote, it would be totally awesome." Gregory quickly added to Form 26S. Species justifies dangerous technological experimentation with the idea of what is, and I quote, totally awesome. Shorath settled their hover platform into a more comfortable position, trying to maintain composure. "Okay, fine. Even if they are more innovative than we thought, they're still confined to their own solar system. The warning beacons we placed around their space should keep other species away while we sort this out." Gregory's optical sensors locked onto a particularly disturbing report. "Shorath, are you familiar with human literature classified as science fiction?" "Vaguely. Creative works about imagined science and technology, right? Harmless entertainment?" "Yes, well," Gregory brought up a comparison chart. "I've been looking at their scientific advancement patterns. Every time they write about something in their fiction, they seem to take it as a personal challenge to make it real." Lily eagerly jumped in again. "Oh yes, they wrote about space travel and then invented rockets. They wrote about wireless communication and then created smartphones. They wrote about artificial intelligence, and now they're teaching it to generate images of something called cats playing poker." "That's not how technological development is supposed to work," Shorath protested. "There's supposed to be a clear progression, forms to fill out, committees to consult, impact assessments to conduct. They invented instant noodles before they invented sustainable fusion power," Gregory said, voice modulator giving up entirely on finding an appropriate tone. "Their priority system seems to be entirely based on what they think is, and I quote, cool. Surely they have some kind of regulatory system, Safety protocols, testing procedures, Shorath urged, growing desperate. Lily held up another data pad. According to their records, many of their major breakthroughs started with phrases like, "I wonder what happens if," or "Hey, watch this," or as we mentioned earlier, "Hold my beer." Gregory's tentacles were now twisted in knots that would have violated at least 3 GSB workplace safety regulations if anyone had bothered to check. They invented computers to calculate artillery trajectories more efficiently, and then immediately started using them to play games and share pictures of small animals with funny captions. "That doesn't sound so bad," Shorath offered weakly. "They invented the internet, a global communication network for military use, and now they mostly use it for something called memes and endless debates about whether their planetary neighbor Mars should be terraformed immediately, because it would be epic," Gregory said. Shorath's hover platform wobbled slightly. "Are they seriously considering planetary terraforming without the proper permits?" Lily eagerly pulled up another file. "Oh, they're already designing the robots. And they've even named them. This one's called Opportunity, and their scientists got emotionally attached to it. They wrote poetry when it stopped working. They form emotional attachments to their scientific equipment." Shorath's bioluminescent spots were now flashing in a way that suggested either extreme distress or an urgent need for medical attention. "That's not even the worst part," Gregory continued, pulling up yet another report. "They've started theorizing about something they call faster-than-light travel, and given their history of turning theoretical science into reality." "But that's impossible," Shorath interrupted. "The physics don't work. The math clearly shows—" Lily chimed in. "According to their discussions, their approach is, and I quote, keep trying stuff until physics gives up and lets us do it anyway." A long silence fell, broken only by the sound of Gregory's tentacles squeezing a stress relief ball. GSB approved, of course. "Right," Gregory finally said, voice modulator settling into a tone of complete resignation. "Lily, we're going to need Form 73X. Lily's antenna shot straight up. "The Ono form?" Gregory confirmed, their voice firm. "Yes, and Shorath, you might want to cancel your plans for the next few cycles. Something tells me we're going to need every analyst on this to figure out how to explain to the Council that we've been treating a species who invented space travel like it was a game, like they were harmless plant eaters. They can't be that bad." Shorath made one final attempt at denial. At that very moment, an alert flashed on all their data pads. Humans had just successfully tested something they called a pizza delivery drone swarm, because apparently regular delivery methods weren't awesome enough. "Form 73X, Gregory repeated, voice unwavering. "All of them." The thing about bureaucratic disasters is that they never happen one at a time. It wasn't written anywhere in the GSB manual, but Gregory was seriously considering adding it as a footnote. Because while they were still processing the horror of humanity's misclassification, the Thrixalians decided to make everything exponentially worse. Assistant Lily Thompson burst into the office, their 6 legs tangled in a panic-stricken mess that could only be described as a panic pretzel. The Thrixalians were ignoring the warning beacons surrounding Earth's solar system. Gregory's tentacles froze mid-stamp as the realization hit them. They're what? The Thrixalians? They picked up our outdated classification data and decided Earth would make an ideal vacation resort? They're calling it a quaint, primitive paradise, where one can observe harmless herbivores in their natural habitat? Shorath, who had been sulking in the corner ever since the pizza drone swarm debacle, suddenly perked up. "That's perfect! Let them come. Once they see humans up close, they'll help us document everything for the classification update." Gregory's voice modulator cycled through 17 different tones before finally settling on one that conveyed impending catastrophe. "Shorath, what exactly do you know about the Thrixalians?" Shorath's bioluminescent spots glowed with academic confidence. "They're a Class 7 civilization, pioneers in gravitational manipulation technology, and generally regarded as one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. Their social structure revolves entirely around their perceived technological superiority to other races." "And what happens," Gregory asked slowly, "when a species that defines itself by technological superiority meets a species that treats physics like a suggestion?" Before Shorath could respond, Lily's datapad erupted with alerts. The first Thrixalian tourist ships had entered Earth's atmosphere, led by Captain VX the Magnificent, a self-proclaimed title, as noted in their travel permit application. The next few minutes would go down in GSB history as the incident that shall not be discussed without proper crisis counseling forms. Are the humans taking selfies with the Thrixalian ships? Gregory's optical sensors struggled to process the incoming footage. Oh, it gets better. Lily was practically vibrating with nervous energy. They're live streaming it. Something called TikTok is crashing because too many humans are posting first contact challenge videos. Captain VX's voice crackled through the emergency broadcast channel. Attention, primitive herbivores. We, the mighty Thrixalian Empire, have chosen your quaint world for our latest luxury resort development. Witness our superior gravity manipulation technology. The Thrixalian ships began an elaborate formation display, bending gravity fields in what was supposed to be an awe-inspiring demonstration of their technological prowess. "Oh no," Gregory whispered. "What's happening?" Shorath demanded. "The humans are looking at the gravity manipulation technology the same way they look at things right before they decide to—" Gregory couldn't even finish the sentence. Lily jumped in eagerly. "Improve them!" The next transmission from Captain VX was a lot less magnificent. "Why are they not cowering? Why are they taking notes? Why is that one wearing a t-shirt that says physics major and pointing at our gravity drive saying, 'Hey y'all, watch this'?" Lily's antennae were now tied in sympathetic knots. Multiple human scientific institutions are live streaming analysis of the Thrixalian technology. They're calling it a peer review party. They even ordered pizza and? Gregory asked, voice low and steady. "They're pointing out design inefficiencies in the Thrixalian gravity drives with memes. Someone just posted a photo of a Thrixalian ship with the caption, 'Your gravity tech is cute. Have you tried putting flames on it?'" Captain VX's next transmission was even more defeated. They're offering suggestions for improvements with napkin sketches. One of them just said our antimatter containment system would work better if we turned it into a sweet gaming rig while we're at it. Gregory watched in horror as humans began approaching the Thrixalian ships with something they called duct tape and an unhealthy enthusiasm for adding sick mods. "Bro, should we intervene?" Shorath asked, their hover platform now hiding behind Gregory's desk. "With what authority?" Gregory's voice modulator had completely given up and was now just emitting sounds resembling a malfunctioning coffee machine. "We can't even tell them to stop because technically, according to our own regulations, they're still classified as harmless herbivores." The final transmission from Captain VX came 3 hours later, withdrawing from Earth's space at speeds that definitely violated several laws of physics, and probably a few local traffic ordinances. Humans are not what we were told," the transmission began. "They asked if they could supercharge our quantum drives. One of them suggested using something called monster energy as a fuel catalyst. Another asked if we could help them drift a space station. A small human child asked why we hadn't weaponized black holes yet, and then started drawing up plans." "This is not a herbivore planet," Captain VX's voice echoed through the broadcast. "Repeat, not a herbivore planet." As the Thrixalian ships fled at speeds that defied all logic and reason, Gregory, Lily, and Shorath sat in stunned silence. "Sir?" Lily finally spoke up. "The humans are now sharing videos of the Thrixalian technology on something called Reddit. They've started a community called Thrixalian Tech Mods, discussing ways to, and I quote, make it go brah." Gregory looked at the mountain of classification update forms on their desk, then at the emergency protocols manual, and back at the forms. Finally, they reached for their special red stamp, the one marked Urgent Galactic Council Intervention Required. "Lily, schedule an emergency council meeting," Gregory said with a weary sigh, "and find out what making it go brah means. Something tells me we're going to need to add a lot of new warning categories to our classification system. Should I include the fact that humans are now selling t-shirts that say, 'I met aliens, and all I got was these sweet upgrade ideas'? No, Lily. Let's save that for the classified appendix. The Galactic Council Chamber, designed to inspire awe, foster diplomatic relations, and accommodate the environmental needs of 387 species, was not, however, designed to handle the level of panic currently flooding its hallowed halls. Gregory stood at the podium, surrounded by holographic displays of human activity and a growing sense of impending doom. Grand Chancellor Charlotte Gray, whose gelatinous form was quivering with distress, presided over what was rapidly becoming the least orderly council meeting in recorded history. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Charlotte Gray burbled, their translation matrix struggling to maintain a professional tone. "Not only did we misclassify humans as herbivores, but they've been accidentally reverse engineering technology they weren't supposed to find." Gregory's voice modulator was stuck in an endless loop of trying to form words but only producing garbled sounds. Technically, humans weren't supposed to stumble upon any of this. We had categorized them as harmless plant eaters, assuming they'd never advance to space travel, but yes, they've been improving things. Improving things. How? Representative Brandon Clark of the Silicon Consciousness Collective asked, clearly struggling to comprehend. Lily, who had been promoted to the position of emergency data presenter for the meeting, pulled up a series of images. This is what happened when they found a piece of crashed Calzari quantum computing technology. The images showed humans first studying the quantum computer and then, in what could only be described as a bizarre twist, deciding it would work better if they used it to run something called Doom. They turned a quantum computer into a gaming system? Brandon Clark's crystalline structure flickered, clearly baffled. Yes, Lily's antennae drooped. They turned it into a gaming system, then used it to develop better quantum computing algorithms. After that, they published their findings on something called GitHub with the caption, "LOL, it works." Shorath, who had been quietly sulking in the corner ever since the pizza drone swarm incident, spoke up from their uncomfortable position. "But surely this is just an isolated case." Gregory remained silent, simply displaying another set of images. The council watched in stunned silence as humans demonstrated their remarkable approach to technological advancement. A crashed atmospheric processor repurposed into what they called an epic BBQ smoker, a damaged stealth system modified to give humans what they described as the ultimate hide-and-seek advantage, a partial alien defense shield re-engineered into what they referred to as the world's most extreme umbrella. "Is that a Vorlith war drone?" Chancellor Charlotte Gray pointed at one image in utter disbelief. "Yes," Gregory confirmed. "The humans found it, decided it was friend-shaped, reprogrammed it to play something called Fetch, and named it Spot. They weaponized companionship." A horrified whisper rippled through the chamber. Weaponized companionship. "No," Lily jumped in, eager to clarify. "That's the strange part. They actually de-weaponized it. Now it helps them rescue other humans and delivers packages. It even has a social media account with millions of followers." The chamber erupted into a sea of confused discussions. Representative Gleby of the Hive Concordant raised all four appendages for attention. "What are we supposed to do about this? We can't just let them keep adapting advanced technology." Actually, Gregory's voice modulator switched to a tone that clearly conveyed the gravity of the situation. According to Article 7, subsection C of the Advanced Species Recognition Protocol, since humans achieved these advancements independently, even if through salvage, they've technically qualified themselves for advanced species status. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Chancellor Charlotte Gray absorbing an entire picture of calming solution. "Surely," the Chancellor finally spoke, "we can contain this. We could put up more warning beacons or establish a quarantine zone." Lily reluctantly displayed another data feed. "The humans have already noticed our warning beacons. They're treating them like tourist attractions. They've taken vacations to the edge of their solar system to quote vibe with the alien stop signs. They're even selling t-shirts," Gregory added with a resigned sigh. "One of the shirts says, 'I went to the edge of the solar system, and all I got was this mysterious alien warning beacon.' Can we at least classify them as a danger to themselves and others?" Representative Brandon Clark asked, clearly frustrated. "With all due respect," Gregory pulled up another set of images. "They've already classified themselves that way. They have warning labels on everything. They just ignore them. They treat warnings like suggestions. Sometimes they even add their own, like extra spicy, hold my beer, or for science." The council chamber descended into chaos as various representatives tried to process the absurdity of this information. Some were demanding immediate action, others suggested mass evacuation of the galaxy, and at least one species had begun their civilization's equivalent of stress baking. Chancellor Charlotte Gray absorbed yet another picture of calming solution before speaking. Chief Inspector Gregory Hatcher, what exactly are you suggesting we do? Gregory's tentacles straightened, an embodiment of bureaucratic resolve. Chancellor, esteemed council members, I believe we have only one option. We must create an entirely new classification category, one that accurately reflects the unique nature of human civilization. And what would you call this new classification? The Chancellor asked, clearly intrigued. Before Gregory could respond, Lily's datapad erupted with fresh alerts. Sir, the humans have just announced plans to establish something they're calling an intergalactic food truck festival. They're saying, and I quote, "If aliens won't come to us, we'll bring tacos to them." Gregory looked at the council, their voice modulator finding a tone that perfectly conveyed the weight of the situation. I suggest we classify them as just don't, as in, just don't try to stop them, just don't try to contain them, and most importantly, just don't give them any ideas they haven't already had. Is that even a valid classification category? Someone inquired, perplexed. It is now, Chancellor Charlotte Gray declared, their gelatinous form firming with resolution, because I absolutely refuse to find out what happens if we try to tell humans they can't have an intergalactic food truck festival. The motion passed unanimously, marking the first time in Galactic Council history that a species was classified based entirely on the collective desire to avoid finding out what they would do if anyone tried to stop them. As the council adjourned, Gregory couldn't help but notice that several representatives were already downloading something called Earth cuisine recipes onto their datapads. 3 days after the emergency council meeting, Gregory's office received its first official communication from Earth. It was a meme. Specifically, it was an image of a cow standing next to a grill, captioned, "Herbivores, you say?" Lily's antennae twitched with barely contained laughter. You might want to see this. Gregory's optical sensors focused on Lily's datapad, displaying what humans called social media. The hashtag #SpaceVegetarians was trending across multiple platforms. Humans, it seemed, found their misclassification hilariously entertaining. According to Lily, who scrolled through endless posts, they're organizing something called the galaxy's largest BBQ, specifically to quote, "Show our new alien friends what herbivores actually eat." Jix drifted into the office, their hover platform now decked out with Earth bumper stickers. Have you seen their official diplomatic response? Please tell me they sent a proper diplomatic transmission. Gregory's voice modulator practically begged, "Oh, they did." "Oh, they did," Jix confirmed, and the words seemed to carry an unsettling level of calm. It's a formal application for an intergalactic food truck license. Well, several thousand applications, actually. Every restaurant on Earth wants to take this show on the road. Gregory's tentacles stiffened into the exact shape the GSB employee handbook explicitly warned against making in professional settings. How are they even filing these applications? They shouldn't have access to our bureaucratic systems. Well, Lily's antennae curled sheepishly. Remember that Thrixalian ship they examined? Apparently, it had a standard-issue Galactic Administration terminal. Modified it? How? They called it User Interface Improvements, Lily explained. They said our form submission system was, quote, worse than trying to file taxes while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. So, they streamlined it. They hacked our bureaucracy? Gregory's voice modulator cracked, struggling to comprehend. Technically, Lily offered, they optimized it. Several departments are already requesting to implement their changes. The Forms Processing Division says their new system is significantly more efficient and actually makes sense. Before Gregory could process this new bureaucratic crisis, the emergency communication channel flared to life. The human diplomatic feed was requesting a direct connection. Tentacles trembling, Gregory accepted the call. The holographic display revealed a human wearing a t-shirt that read, "Vegetarians are just bad hunters," and a badge identifying them as Jack Davis, Earth's Department of Interstellar Shenanigans, newly established. "Hey there!" Jack Davis's enthusiasm radiated through the hologram. First off, I just want to say we're absolutely loving the classification mix-up. We haven't had this much fun since we convinced that one scientist that dropping buttered toast attached to a cat would create infinite energy. You what? Gregory's voice modulator glitched, the words faltering. Oh, that was ages ago. Jack Davis waved it off. Anyway, we've got some amazing ideas for cultural exchange programs. First up, competitive eating contests. We figured, if you thought we were herbivores, wait until you see what we can do at a hot dog eating contest. Lily made a sound that suggested they had just uncovered the shocking details of what a hot dog eating contest entailed. Jack Davis, oblivious, continued, pulling out what looked like a digital presentation. Next on the list, we've drafted plans for what we're calling Space Food Truck Alley. Picture it like a culinary United Nations, but with more deep fryers and questionable fusion cuisine experiments. We're talking Satan-Martian fusion, zero-gravity molecular gastronomy, quantum-entangled pizza delivery. Sharath's bioluminescent spots flickered in alarm. Quantum-entangled pizza delivery? Oh yeah, Jack Davis said with a casual shrug. If we can quantum-entangle particles, why not pepperoni? Instant pizza delivery anywhere in the galaxy. We're calling it the quantum dominoes effect. Gregory's tentacles were now performing maneuvers that could only be described as Olympic-level gymnastics. But there are regulations, health and safety protocols, environmental impact assessments. Jack Davis's grin widened, unshaken. Already handled. We had our legal team, which, by the way, is now calling itself Intergalactic Law, watching Sci-Fi. We went through your entire regulatory database. Turns out there's no specific rule against using quantum mechanics for pizza delivery. We checked twice. That's because nobody ever thought it needed to be specifically prohibited. Gregory's voice modulator reached frequencies previously thought impossible. Exactly. And you know what that means? It's technically allowed, Jack Davis continued, unfazed. By the way, we're also planning to start an intergalactic food review blog. First post, so you think your species can cook. It's going to be huge. As Jack Davis enthusiastically laid out plans for something called Intergalactic MasterChef, Gregory noticed Lily was taking notes with disturbingly heightened enthusiasm. Sir? Lily whispered. Should I start preparing the necessary forms for all this? Lily, there are no forms for this. There have never been forms for this. We're going to have to create entirely new forms just to handle the concept of humans turning quantum physics into a food delivery system. Oh, don't worry about the forms, Jack Davis interjected cheerfully. We've already drafted some. We figured since we were optimizing your bureaucracy anyway, we might as well add a few new categories. Check your inbox. We've sent over Form 1337, Application for Physics-Defying Food Service Establishments, and Form Y-420, Request for Approval of Improbable, but technically not illegal business ventures. Gregory checked their inbox. The forms were there, immaculately organized, perfectly formatted, and somehow included an image of a taco with a space helmet. We're thinking of calling our first franchise Fifth Fundamental Force of Flavor, Jack Davis added. The logo is a black hole eating a burger. Marketing's all over it. As the human continued outlining plans to revolutionize galactic cuisine through what they called aggressive innovation and questionable physics, Gregory suddenly realized that the galaxy wasn't just going to have to adapt to humans. It was going to have to develop a whole new appetite for chaos and possibly quantum-entangled pizza. The Galactic Standards Bureau had never looked quite like this. The normally sterile corridors were now plastered with what humans called inspirational posters, featuring slogans like "Hang in there," "Baby," defying gravitational laws, and "Keep calm" and "Quantum on." The cafeteria expanded its menu to include something called fusion cuisine, which Gregory suspected was named after nuclear fusion, not culinary fusion. Chief Inspector of Human Relations. Gregory Hatcher entered the office, wearing their newly designed uniform, somehow a hybrid of formal GSB attire and what humans called a Hawaiian shirt. Just Gregory is fine. Senior Assistant Lily Thompson's voice modulator had found a new tone setting, which could only be described as resigned acceptance of human-induced chaos. The new warning beacons are ready for deployment, Lily announced, pulling up the designs on their datapad. Although the humans had already started selling merchandise featuring the new warning beacons were a bureaucratic masterpiece, forged from compromise. Gone were the old restricted space warnings. The new one simply read, "Warning. Human space. Seriously, we mean it. Yes, they're that humans. Note, they will feed you whether you want it or not." Have the Thrixalians stopped complaining about their ships being returned with, what did they call it, sick upgrades? Gregory asked, organizing their new collection of Earth takeout menus. Actually, Lily's antennae perked up. They've officially withdrawn their complaint. Apparently, their ships now run 300% more efficiently, though no one can explain why the quantum drives need RGB lighting or why all the AI assistants sound like someone called Morgan Freeman. Sharath floated into the room, now sporting flame decals on their hover platform. It makes it go faster, they had insisted, much to Gregory's eternal frustration. The latest reports from the Human Observation Division are in. You won't believe what they're up to now, Lily said, looking amused. Do I want to know? Gregory sighed. They've started a service called Meals on Quantum, Lily reported. They're using their modified Thrixalian tech to deliver Earth cuisine across the galaxy. Their slogan is, "From our kitchen to your planet in less time than it takes to argue about whether time is real." Gregory's tentacles reflexively reached for the stress relief ball, which had been replaced by a squeezable Earth replica that played elevator music when squeezed. How many regulatory violations is that? Technically none, Lily responded casually. They submitted everything through the new forms they designed. The Bureaucratic Efficiency Division is actually praising their paperwork. They said, it's chaotic, but compliant. That's humanity in 2 words. Gregory sighed, rubbing their temples. How's the new classification system working out? Lily brought up the latest statistics. The just don't category has been expanded to include subcategories like no, really, just don't. They've already thought of that. They call it a feature. They're probably selling t-shirts about it already. The good news, Shorath offered, is that galactic tourism to Earth is up by 3,000%. The bad news is that most species return with what they're calling ideas and ambitions, and the human food trucks are now operating in 47-star systems. They're calling it the most ambitious crossover event in culinary history, Lily added. Gregory looked out the window at the newly constructed intergalactic food court, which had replaced the old GSB reception area. A line of various species stretched around the block, waiting to try something called a quantum queso quadia. You know, Gregory's voice modulator shifted into a tone that might have been mistaken for fondness. When I first discovered that classification error, I thought it would be the end of my career. And now? Lily asked, curious. Now I'm the galaxy's leading expert in human relations. I have a collection of Earth comfort food in my office, and I've somehow become a food critic for their intergalactic cuisine blog. Don't forget your new title, Shorath added. Official galactic taste tester for experimental human cuisine. Gregory laughed softly. I still can't believe they made that a real position, they mused, reaching for what humans assured them was a perfectly normal coffee cup. It had jets. Lily's antenna twitched with excitement. The humans just submitted a new form. They want to organize something called an intergalactic food fight. Did they include proper safety protocols? Gregory asked, already bracing for the answer. They wrote YOLO in the safety assessment section and attached a liability waiver that's somehow both legally binding and hilarious, Lily reported. Gregory stared at their special red stamp, then at the form, and finally at the growing line outside the food court. Their voice modulator found a tone that sounded almost like laughter. Approve it, but add a note. No quantum-entangled condiments this time. They're going to do it anyway, aren't they? Shorath asked. Of course they are, Gregory replied, reaching for their world's best Xeno-culinary administrator mug, a gift from the Earth delegation. They're human, that's what they do. And somehow, against all bureaucratic logic, they make it work. Outside, a ship advertised time-dilated tacos. They're worth the wait, but you won't have to. It zipped past the window, leaving behind a trail of confused physics and delighted customers in its wake. And somewhere, in a filing cabinet that had been quantum-entangled with every other filing cabinet in the galaxy for efficiency, the humans insisted, Form 24Q still recorded that initial classification error. Humans. Harmless herbivores. It was, Gregory had to admit, probably the most entertaining mistake in bureaucratic history.